let's go ahead and start with your pick of the week. And this is a new one that I don't think we've covered on the show, and that is Hormel Foods, ticker symbol HRL. So,
Yeah, and
AJ, how are you
I
setting up this?
I definitely have to thank the program participants in our program for this one. They came up with this one about 10 days ago and brought it up at our session. So if you are part of our program, once a week we get together and we workshop a candidate. So generally, how it works is folks who have gone through kind of our training and have gotten good at finding these underlying symbols that we might want to use some of our strategies on, our option strategies on, they'll throw them at us during this workshop and ask us to give our 2 cents on their pick. And so Hormel Foods was thrown at us, and we looked at it and we're like, you know what? This is an interesting candidate to look at. So let's take a look at it on our screen here. So you can look at this 6 month chart and you can see that this guy has been sideways channeling. And if I want to sell an option against this, one of the things I might want to look at is this a pretty solid symbol? And so one of the things I like to look at is, do they report good earnings, right? So if I take a look at let's look at the last year. So if I come over here and look at 1 year worth of movement, you can see that Hormel pretty much stays in the same trading range. Every once in a while, they go up or down a step function, but then they stay in the same trading range. All along, looking at their earnings announcements, they're always making money. And that's because they're in the food industry. They're not a very popular stock, so you're not going to have mainstream media commenting on Hormel Foods, causing a whole bunch of uh, folks that pay attention to mainstream media for their investment advice. You're not going to have them swaying price left or right. They also give their investors a pretty nice dividend every quarter. That's a sign of a good symbol that we would want to get into the insurance market. And by the way, Sip, that was absolutely amazing how you described options, because if you think about it, what you were describing is that near term at the money option is the one that works like an insurance policy. And we like to actually not only be the buyers of those, but sometimes, depending on what side of the equation makes sense, we like to be the sellers. If you think about, like, for instance, your company that sells you auto insurance, and everybody's seen auto insurance rates go up this year, or people, your homeowners insurance. Think about the insurance companies on the other side. They are making a killing, right? Think about medical insurance, right? So why don't we get into the business of selling insurance? And that's exactly what that is. And then you also describe the leverage component. That leverage component is when we use a far out in time, deeper in the money option. And that's where we can create a stock replacement, but at a cheaper price. So I love how you've mastered all of that, because that is kind of truly the concepts behind this. So yeah, I like Hormel Foods. Back on topic. One thing I've noticed is that Hormel Foods just recently dipped, and they dipped below our tested level of support, but they're finding a bottom right at my threshold of where I might stop watching this symbol. But I'm not going to stop watching this symbol. Instead, I'm going to see if indeed a bottom forms right now. So that's what I wanted to target folks to. A bottom has not formed. And so one thing I teach my folks is to wait until you see the whites of their eyes before you pull the trigger. So we're not ready to trade today. We may be ready to trade early next week. We want to see the signal. But if we do, the option strategies that we want to apply, we want to leg into some sort of position. In other words, we want to set it up so that we can sell insurance in the not too distant future. And so, in order to sell the insurance, you have to have some sort of covering position in place. What that means is if somebody does cash in your insurance policy, you'll be able to pay out. So you set up some sort of way on your side in order to pay out should you get cashed in. And then you can sell the insurance policy, hoping the folks don't use it. And be safe either way. If they do use it, you can cover their claim. If they don't use it, you just collect the premiums, right? And so the initial covering position here could be buying some stock at this low, low price, or using that leverage, like you said. So buying a deep in the money, far out in time call option could be good for Hormel Foods. And as you can see, Hormel Foods does have some activity. If I come on out here to say the June option, I could go pretty deep in the money. I base my thoughts on if there's activity based on how small or how big the bid ask spread is. You can see here the bid ask spread is not um, large at all, which tells me there's a lot of activity. So you can go deep in the money, far out in time, and pick an option that would be a good stock substitute. So I've got those 2 choices. And also, should you decide that you want to keep Hormel Foods in your portfolio for the long term, there's folks who, we talked about it last week, how you change your perspective on how you invest, depending on where you are in your life timeline. You may want to have a stock that pays such a good dividend in your portfolio for the long term. You could use a what we call a cash secured or naked put strategy to buy this stock at a real discount. And in the meantime, while you've got that order out to buy this at bargain basement prices, you'd get paid for putting those orders out. So that's a fun strategy I like for when I'm accumulating stocks into my portfolio. So all 3 of those strategies would work really good for Hormel Foods. My suggestion is let's wait for that bottom signal to be found before we place any of those strategies or put those strategies to work for us.